DreAllDay.com.
You are now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then what we do is we put all this together for you. We put all this together into one bundle, one package, one philosophy, where you're streamlined and broke down, codified our entire process. We have this daily masterclass here, a university, a whole bunch of other stuff, a book too, that is called Work on Your Game, all of it. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic, we're gonna talk about why people live in the past. Why do we sometimes have such a hard time moving on from what happened yesterday, 3 months ago, 3 weeks ago, 10 years ago? Why do people live in the past instead of moving into the future where everything is actually happening, or not even the future, the present where everything is actually happening, the future where everything, should we make it there, where everything is going to be happening? Why do people stay backwards where you can't do anything about it anyway? Now, while we all know, logically, that we can't do anything about the past, many people can't seem to leave it behind. So today we want to talk about why. And before we even get into that, I want to give you the sister episode to this masterclass, which is episode number 1349, where I talked about how to move on in life. So if you find yourself, once we go through this masterclass, and maybe you already know that you're guilty of living in the past, or once we go through this, you notice that some of the things that I'm saying are referring directly to you, that you are indeed living in the past, go listen to episode 1349, where I tell you how to move on in life. So if this one will help you identify the issue. This will identify, what disease are these symptoms. I'm gonna give you the symptoms. You wanna know you got the disease of living in the past. Then I'm gonna give you the prescription, which is episode 1349, which is how to move on. I told you we are a one-stop shop here for anything mental game related here at Work on Your Game. So in case anybody tried to tell you different, or in case nobody has told you, we are the place that you go. Anything mental game, we got all the frameworks in place. And if it's not here in this class, then it's in our courses, it's in our books, or it's in me. And you can work with me one-on-one. It's all different conversations for different days. Anyway, let's get right to the point of today's topic, which is why people live in the past. Point number one is where the glory is. People live in the past because that's where their greatest accomplishment was. It's where they were happiest, is where they were most proud of themselves, is where they created the most success. It's where, when they just think about their lives, someone could be 25 years old living in the past, is because the part of their life where they felt most successful, where they felt most accomplished, where they felt they had done the most, where they felt the most respected, where the ego was strongest, their self-image was healthiest, was sometime in the past. This is why people live there, is because that's their happy place. Reliving what happened, quote, back then, close quote, is easier for any human being than it is to do something to make greatness happen today. I mean, if you really just think about that on a logical level, if I think back to something that I did 2 years ago or 10 years ago, that was a great thing. I was proud of it. People knew me for it. I got whatever accolades or return on investment from it that I wanted, that made me feel good. It doesn't take me any effort whatsoever to relive that moment. All I had to do is think about it, and thinking takes a little bit of brain power, but it's not that hard to think about something that already happened. Now, to think about something that doesn't exist, that can make my brain sweat a little bit. But thinking about something that already happened, all I had to do is pull the memory up. As long as I can remember it, it takes very, very little effort to relive that past experience. But for me to do something today, to create something new, to record this masterclass, to come up with some new topics, to write the next chapter in the book that I'm working on, or do some editing, or to rework something that I've been working on, or to figure out a problem to something in my business that's not quite turning over the way that I want it to turn over, that takes a lot of effort. Even if it's just mental effort, I had to kind of figure out something that isn't there right now. As if it was there already, then it wouldn't be a problem, right? So the fact that I had to put energy into even figuring something out means I gotta put some investment into that. And we know our 5 forms of investment from episode 609, time, money, attention, energy, and focus. You gotta put some investment in to create something now. To create greatness now, like we talked about in the episode on the greatness equation, and I'll tell you what episode that is in a moment. But to create greatness now is gonna take some work, all right? I think everybody understands that you can't be good You can't be good, let alone great, without doing something. Right? Nobody here thinks you could be great just by waking up and rolling out of bed, right? That was episode 1103, where we talked about the greatness equation. If you haven't listened to that, I suggest you listen to all those episodes in the first 7 episodes of the 1100s. From 1100 all the way up to 1107, I would suggest you listen to all of those. And go to workonyourgamepodcast.com. You can listen to all the episodes that have ever been released in the history of the show. But people live back in the past because it's easier, all right? And is where the glory is. Doing something today will take something. You got to give something. Reminiscing about back then takes nothing. Simple as that. Some people lose their ambition to continue achieving in life as soon as they achieve something, and then they're never able to recreate that drive. So maybe you know someone who fits this description. They achieved something in life. They did something that really went well for them. They got the kind of result that they wanted. It made them feel good. It served its purpose. It fed their ego. And that's not a negative thing to feed your ego. Ego is your sense of self, and the thing that makes you different from everybody else is the thing that we all have, some stronger than others. So some people create that, but then once they've created it, they never recalibrate themselves and say, okay, well, what am I going to do now? All right, I did that. That's cool. That's done. It was great. I'm going to put it on my resume. I'll make sure everybody knows about it because it lends credibility to my name. But what am I going to do moving forward? How can I build on this? If you want to do something completely different, you don't build on it. You want to do something completely different, you got to have at least some level of ambition within you to try to do something else. You got to get that drive back up. All right, you had to press hard on the gas to achieve that outcome. Now, are you willing to press hard on the gas again to achieve the next outcome? This is something that I talked about once when I was training for the first Miami marathon that I ran, which was back in 2017. 2017 was the first marathon that I ran. And one day I was training and I ran like the last mile and a half of the run. I was running like an incredible pace, one of the fastest paces I ever ran, which proved to me that I was capable of doing it physically. The question that I was asking myself though, and I talked about this here on the show, the question I was asking myself is not, am I physically capable? Because I had already proved that. The question was, am I mentally willing to push myself to do it again? And I'm not telling you that you need to go run a marathon or run faster every single day. What I'm saying is I'm using that story just as a metaphor, that anecdote as a metaphor. When you achieve the thing, all right, now you know you can achieve something if you put your mind and your time and your energy towards it. The question is, are you willing to do it again? Are you willing to put yourself in a position to start from zero and do it all over again? And this is why I tell people, even as you approach the achievement of a goal, you must always have a new goal in place to replace that goal. Because as soon as you achieve one thing, if you don't have another goal to replace it with, then what are you doing? You are not a success at the moment. As soon as you achieve a goal, you're no longer a success. By the work on your game definition of success, which is you have outcomes that you wish to achieve, and you are in the process. You are in pursuit of those outcomes. That is what I call success, how we define success. And I wrote a whole book on that called The Mental Workbook. And when you get your free copy of The Mirror of Motivation at mirrorofmotivation.com, on the very next page of the process, we're going to offer you, once you tell us where to ship The Mirror of Motivation, on the very next page, we're going to offer you the Mental Game Advanced Bundle, which is my book, Work on Your Game, hardcover book, and the book, The Mental Workbook. So in the Mental Workbook, I define success as going after a goal. Now, there's some other things that you can also define success as. Again, that's the Work on Your Game definition, the other definitions. But the point that I'm making here is, as soon as you have achieved an outcome, if you don't have a new outcome to replace it, that means you're no longer pursuing anything because you already achieved it, right? So you have nothing to pursue. At that moment, you're no longer successful. You only become a success again when you replace it with something else. So a lot of people live in the past because once they've achieved one thing, they don't, not understanding this or just deciding to ignore it conveniently, they don't go after the next thing. Let's move on to point number 2. The topic once again today is why people live in the past. Number 2 reason is that the past represents safety. This is the safe, happy place, like I talked about here in point number 1. We know what happened in the past. The great thing about the past is that nothing can change. Now, I mean, you have some people may have revisionist history these days, but nowadays, at least nowadays and moving forward, all right, everything, there's a receipt for everything, right? Is what people say on the internet, everything has receipts. So the past is pretty much unchangeable. Whatever it was, it was. Now, of course, people can change the stories and erase things and change how things went and say something different than what actually happened. But let's just talk about our own personal stories. All right, forget political back and forth or some social media beef. Let's just talk about You personally in your life, you know what your past is. Whether you have told people about it or you haven't, whether you've been honest about it with the world or you haven't, you know what it is. Just you in your mind. The past to all of us represents safety. How do I know that it represents safety? Not because necessarily you were safe in the past, not because you enjoyed the past. Maybe you're doing 100 times better now than you were in the past and you would never want to go back. What I mean when I say the past represents safety, I mean it emotionally. You know exactly what's going to happen. All right, you don't know what's going to happen today and tomorrow. Now, you might think you know. You might have plans. You might have a strategy. And you may think that you have a lot of control over what's going to happen. But you don't control what's going to happen now and into the future, especially if you're dealing with other human beings who you can't possibly control. But the past, whatever happened is there. It's etched in stone. It's done. Again, at least in your mind as the way that you saw it. Maybe somebody else saw your past situation way different than you did. But in your mind, you know exactly what you saw, right? It can't change at all. So that's safety for us emotionally because we know that there's going to be no unpredictability with the past. The future is unpredictable. Now, you could take that unpredictability as excitement, like, man, it's unpredictable. Anything can happen. This could be great. Or you could take it as anxiety, like, damn, anything can happen. This could be terrible. I don't know if I want to deal with this. The same energy, just two different ways that we label it. But we talked about that in a different episode. Understand that staying in the past is, since it's unchangeable, it becomes part of our comfort zone. And we all understand the concept of the comfort zone, right? The comfort zone are all the things that you are used to, that you're comfortable with, that it doesn't shake you up. It doesn't take you out of your element emotionally, mentally, even physically to be in those spaces. That's what is your comfort zone. Outside of your comfort zone is anything that may give you a little bit of trepidation, a little bit of anxiety, maybe a little bit of excitement, depending on how you decide to label it. But the things outside of your comfort zone are how you grow, right? You grow by expanding your comfort zone, by stepping outside of it just a little bit. And now you just expand that circle of the comfort zone because now you're used to that thing that you weren't used to 5 minutes ago because you just dealt with that 5 minutes of a little bit of discomfort, maybe a lot of discomfort for dealing with it. What the present and the future represent are wide open possibilities that can happen in unpredictable ways. Now, again, you can label that however you want, but the past being completely predictable and the present and future being completely unpredictable, just by simple logic, simple reasoning, the past is much safer. All right, the past is much safer for any of us. Some of us choose to forge forward and keep moving forward anyway, even though we know it's unpredictable because we have wired ourselves to do so. And if you are not wired to do so, or you think you may be on a borderline or you're not quite sure, I would suggest you get the mental workbook. By the simplest way to get it is go get your free copy of the Mirror of Motivation at mirrorofmotivation.com. Then get the advanced bundle on the very next page. Or you can go to workonmygame.com/workbook and you can get the book by itself if you want. But I'd say the best deal would be if you do it the first thing I said, mirrorofmotivation.com. The past being predictable is safe for us, and many people in life, maybe not you, but many people would rather remain safe and unchanged and neutral and ostensibly going backwards because there's no neutral in the universe because the world is always moving forward, then they would like to move forward and deal with the unpredictability of whatever could happen now and into the future. Point number 3. The topic once again is why people live in the past. Number 3, the past provides an excuse for the problems of the present. This is a big one right here. Do you know a person who they had something happen in their lives? Maybe it happened when they were a child and now they're an adult. Maybe it happened 3 weeks ago and it's still in their mind. Maybe it happened 10 years ago. Maybe it happened at their last job. Maybe it happened in their last relationship. Maybe it's something that happened a while back, but it's still affecting them in some way, or at least they're allowing it to affect them in some way. You know somebody who had something happen to them that they didn't want to happen. It was not a good thing. It might have been a type of traumatic event. Maybe it was just some way that they were done wrong. Maybe it's some long-term abuse, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, that they received from somebody that they didn't really want to receive. And for whatever reason, even though a good amount of time has passed, they are still living in that moment of that negative thing that happened to them, that unwanted circumstance that occurred in their life. You know anybody who fits that description? Well, if you don't, understand that there are a whole lot of them out there. So you may just happen to be, just luck of the draw that you haven't run into any of these individuals. What the past does for many people is it provides an excuse for them for the problems of the present. See, they don't have to deal with, well, they do have to deal with what's going on in the present, but if they ever really had to think about it, they really had to think hard about what's going on in their life right now or what's not going on in their life right now, they could always, instead of looking in the mirror Like we talked about, there's an episode where I talked about looking in the mirror and the window. That was episode number 1153, the mirror and the window and the concept of leadership. Instead of looking in the mirror and saying, all right, what am I doing or what am I not doing that is causing my current status in life? What they do is look out the window, not at other people, but what they do is look out the window at the past. You see, looking out the window to the past, because you can't do anything about what's going on right now. The mirror is only about the things you could do right now. All right, I could do something right now with this present moment, me, myself. If you're looking at what might happen in the future or what happened in your past, that is part of looking out the window. Even though it's you, there's nothing you can do about it. So the mirror is only the concept of what you can do something about and you can control right now in this moment. So many people, when they look at their current situation and it's not ideal, it is not what they want and they know it's not what they want, instead of having a hard conversation with themselves, instead of stepping outside of their comfort zone and making themselves a little bit uncomfortable and saying, hey, what the hell am I doing right now? How do I need to fix this? What actions do I need to take? You know what they do instead? They look out the window to their past and say, oh, see, the only reason I'm in this situation today is because of this thing that happened to me 5 years ago. In other words, they are rationalizing their current status with something that happened in their past. And this is what keeps a whole lot of people back in life, because they're allowing the past to be the anchor that holds them to something that already occurred. Now, again, let me be clear. The past, when I say the past provides an excuse for the problems of the present, it doesn't even have to be a negative thing. I could say the past provides an excuse for the stagnation of the present, or just the situation of the present. The past thing that I'm referring to here, when you're looking out the window, does not have to be a negative thing. Your past thing could have been you won the state championship on the football team 10 years ago. That was a great thing. You were really happy about it. You got a trophy, you got MVP, your name was in the newspaper, you were on all these websites ranked and all this stuff. That might be part of your past. And if you're still living there 10 years later, that past success is holding you back right now because you're not willing to let that go enough to focus on what you need to do and who you need to be as a person right now, today. That's another way that the past can hold us back. So understand, when I say the past, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. The past can be a great thing. Like we talked about already in these first 2 points. The past represents safety. The past is where all the glory is. For many people, when the past is holding them back, a lot of times it's something negative, or at least something they have labeled as negative that's holding them back. But for many other people, it's a good thing to happen. And they have rested on their laurels, or they no longer have that drive, they no longer have the ambition, or they're completely aware of what I talked about, how you have to push yourself to achieve that level again. They're just not willing to do the work. Some people are willing to do the work once, but they're not willing to do the work over and over and over again, showing up every single day to do the work, what we call discipline here. Some people aren't built for that. Actually, no, let me take that back. Everybody's built for that. Some people just don't want to do it. That's the better way of saying it. The more we can point to yesterday for what is happening or not happening today, the less responsibility we assume. So if you're looking at what happened back then and allowing that to give you an excuse for not doing something now, or allowing it to give you an excuse for something you're doing now that's not really helping you, then you are absolving yourself of the responsibility of today. You're looking out the window and not looking in the mirror. And the problem with absolving yourself of responsibility is, maybe if you're listening, you're like, hey, Joe, you know what? Sometimes I don't want any responsibility. That might be a good thing, you know? The reason why absolving yourself of responsibility is not a good thing is because responsibility is a requirement. It comes in a package deal with power. I don't know any person. Nobody's ever said to me, Dre, I want to have no power whatsoever in my life. I know people who say, I don't want to have responsibility for this thing. I want to absolve myself of some responsibility so I don't have everything on my hands. I get it. As a business owner, I get it. There are some things I don't want to be responsible for. I don't want to be responsible for making sure the emails get sent every day at whatever time, and make sure that the links are working and all this stuff. And if something's not working, I want to be able to call somebody and say, hey, how the hell did you make that mistake and the link and the button wasn't working? All right, and that's happened. It actually happened this week, as a matter of fact. You read my emails. But the point is, when I say responsibility and power come as a package deal, I'm talking about just for you and your life and the things that you want to achieve in the big picture. I'm not talking about just every single detail of what's going on. You don't have to have responsibility for changing the oil in your car, but responsibility for your success in life. If you want responsibility, or if you want power to create success, you must take on the responsibility of it. All right? Everybody wants power. Not everybody signs up for responsibility. But I'm saying, if you sign up for power, you automatically get responsibility with it. Right? You don't have a choice. All right, it comes with it. It's kind of like if you get a car, you pretty much got to have insurance. Now, you can try to drive around without it for a while, but if you get caught, they're going to get you. Everybody understand what I'm saying? You buy a house, all right, what comes with it is now you're also a maintenance man or a maintenance woman, or you're gonna have to hire one because if something goes wrong, you gotta fix it. And you'll find out as soon as one of those pipes bursts. Let's move on to point number 4. Today's topic is why people live in the past. People live in the past because it requires no effort and no change. Effort is one of the 5 forms of investment. And understanding investing is not always easy, folks. Even though investing may sound simple, I mean, there are people with podcasts, books, courses, they got their whole business built around teaching people investments. Actually, that's what we do here. We just do it in a different type of way. We're not talking about hard investment, like investing money and buying houses and stocks. There's some people, businesses about that. We're talking about the investments of time, money, attention, energy, focus. Investments of putting the work in. I mean, the show is called Work on Your Game, and work is effort. Everybody understands that, right? It takes energy, right? It takes time, focus, attention. You might have to pay some money to do work. Maybe it'll make you some money to do work. We talk about investing too, just in a different way. Investing in yourself is the only way you can create change after puberty. All right? After you pass the stage of puberty, which is for most males and female, let's just say by age 22, you're done with puberty. You're done that involuntary growth that comes with you. Like your body gets taller. For males, your voice gets deeper. For women, your body develops. Your reproductive organs develop and all that stuff. After that, you don't grow anymore voluntarily. You must choose to. You must make investments to do so. The biggest reason people live in the past, because the past already happened, and they don't have to work hard or do anything different to keep reliving it. And whether it's something positive or something negative, since the past has already occurred, there's no effort required in the present or the future when your mind is stuck in history. No effort is required right now today. And that's how the past can work either as an excuse for your current failure or a replacement for current achievement. So if you're failing right now, you can say, well, it's because of my past. You're living back there. You don't have to do anything to work for the change that should be happening right now. Even though you're failing in the present, you don't have to do any work because you're like, well, the past is the reason. I can't do nothing about that. There's your excuse. You're done. Or if you are achieving right now or not achieving at least the way that you want to right now, you're trying to achieve but you're not getting there. Instead of saying, hey, what do I need to do different? How do I need to redouble my efforts? Where do I need to get a better strategy? What do I need to change in order to get to the outcome that I'm not quite getting to right now? You keep blaming the past for the fact that you're not quite getting that outcome. Well, you're going to stay in that position of not having the outcome because you're blaming something other than yourself. Again, looking out the window instead of looking in the mirror. Again, that's episode 1153 that I would suggest you refer yourself back to, even if you heard it when I put it out. We're talking 2 years ago. You should go back and listen to it again. Anyway, let's recap today's class, which is why people live in the past. Since we all know, logically, we can't do anything about the past, why do some people fail to live or move out of the past? And again, refer yourself to episode 1349 about how to move on if you find yourself guilty of any of the following. Number 1, the past is where the glory is. Reliving what happened back then is easier than doing something to make greatness happen today. Doing things today takes effort. Reminiscing about back then takes nothing. Point number 2, the past represents safety. We know what happened in the past. We know it's unchangeable. Thus, staying there mentally is our mental comfort zone. A lot of people spend their whole lives in the comfort zone. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of success to be achieved in the comfort zone. Number 3, the past provides an excuse for the problems of the present. The more we can blame yesterday for what's happening or not happening today, the less responsibility we have. The problem with absolving yourself of responsibility is that responsibility is a package deal with power. If you don't have responsibility, you also don't have power, and that's a problem. And number 4, it requires no effort and no change. The biggest reason anybody lives in the past is because it already happened, and whether it's something positive or negative, since it's already done, there's no effort required. And a lot of people don't want to give any effort. The problem with not wanting to give effort is is one of the 5 forms of investment. If you do not invest, you cannot achieve you don't get any dividends. All right, you have to be paying an invoice to future you instead of getting a dividend check from future you. So you should make a better decision. And again, I told you episode number 1349 for how to move on, and episode 1153 for the mirror and the window of leadership. And if you have not yet claimed your free copy of my book, The Mirror of Motivation, listen, make yourself a wise investment. Go to the website right now, mirrorofmotivation.com. I know your phone is in your hand. Go to mirrorofmotivation.com. Tell me where to ship the book. We will ship that book to you worldwide so I can give you some game about not living in the past and help you create a future that is going to be so good you don't want to go back to the past. How about that? Work on your game. Dre all day.